My name is Will McKay. I'm a public information officer with the Utah Division of Emergency Management. I'm joined here today with Shane, the Salt Lake County Search and Rescue Coordinator. When did you first become involved with SAR, and what was the reasoning behind it?
I started in 2020 officially. We're volunteering with the search and rescue team. I worked with them for about 4 years before I took a full-time position with the Salt Lake County, and I get to work with them full-time now. I grew up in the Utah wilderness and got lost in many adventures since I was 14 with my older brothers. We've been through some epic adventures, and I've had some close calls. When I was an adult, I tried out with the search and rescue team, but I had a conflict working for the county. And the opportunity arose a couple of years ago to take a full-time job with them, and I couldn't resist. So it was a dream come true.
Do you find that there's a higher concentration of rescues occurring within the trail hiking community, the climbing community, the trail running community, or the biking community? Is there one that outweighs the other?
I'd say all of the above. It's very well spread out. The rescue locations are spread out within the Wasatch Front and the Wasatch Back, and it can be any mix out of that bag.
So in the fall and winter months, we are having a little bit more colder weather. Can you run us through what the typical rescue victim might have going through their head or body when they're getting exposed to altitude sickness or colder temperatures as the seasons come on?
Yeah, it gets very disorienting, especially if you're suffering from an altitude sickness, dehydration, or an exposure. It is very rapid onset and debilitating. If you're up above the tree lines, there's not a lot of shade or shelter, and the water sources become more rare. So if you didn't bring your water with you, you're really going to be susceptible to that. You really should have a liter of water per person per hour of extraneous exercise when hiking, and not everybody brings that much water with them, and so it mentally becomes very stressful where you can't find water, you can't find shelter, you can't remove yourself from that situation. And with altitude sickness, the only remedy is to come down in elevation back to the valley. So you can get from 4,500 feet in the valley up to 10,000 feet in the mountains in a single outing. So it's really easy to find yourself in that situation rapidly before you can catch on to it and prevent it. So winter activities, folks aren't bringing enough water with them. They'll eat snow and things like that, and it's just not enough for your body to consume to get the resources you need to succeed. So.
Yeah. Why is it important to know your trail in advance? How does knowing where you're going and being aware of your surroundings help prevent rescues in the first place? And what are some key factors that folks should consider before they go out into the mountains?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's loaded with a bunch of different ways for me to take it. First and foremost is knowing your trail. A lot of people are relying on their cell phones, and this might come up a lot. The cell phones are really integrated with how we navigate, and we take photos, and we maybe check an email or take a phone call while we're out. Sometimes folks are doing that during the day, and then they go out for an afternoon hike, and their phones start at a 60% or something like that. When you get into this terrain, your phone starts fighting for a signal, and that can consume even more battery if you don't put it into an airplane mode or something. But an over-reliance on your phone really becomes apparent when it dies. And if it's dark and you're using your phone as a flashlight and that was your only light source, really into a big world of hurt there. So if you have an over-reliance on your cell phone, it really becomes apparent when it goes dead, or if you don't have service. If your maps that you're using don't have the trail detail anymore, if you zoom in and there's just pixels because it didn't download, you end up with a dead phone if it's your light source, and now you can't see the trail at night. Familiarity with the trail really comes into play when you're somewhere like Mount Olympus. I'd like to bring that one up. It's very easily accessible from the valley, and it's very easy to become disoriented up there. If you're not familiar with the trail and you are up on the ridge line, it's easy to continue down either a game trail or another ridge line, and you fall into Hughes Canyon, which Hughes Canyon doesn't have a really great way to come down. So you'll end up in a cliffed out situation where you can't move up or down anymore without causing serious injury to yourself. So knowing when to split back, keeping an eye out on trail forks, trail crossings over rivers, and just major landmarks. I love keeping my eye on the peaks and naming them. If I don't know the name, I'll give them a name so that I can refer to them throughout my hike, because they change as you proceed through your hike. And it's important to understand where you're at in relation to something like a peak or a stream or one of those major trail forks. So it's a very loaded question, and I think that your cell phone is a wonderful tool to have, but we definitely become over-reliant on that.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand how to navigate without that tool.
We've talked a little bit about this, but what is some stuff that folks should be taking out into the backcountry or onto the trails with them in the fall/winter?
So a little extra food and water goes a long way. And I think clothing and your 10 essentials. So a way to start a fire, a med kit, tool kits. We want to have sun protection for both your eyes and your skin. So a long sleeve hoodie or a sun shirt is a really good piece of equipment. If it's moisture wicking, it doesn't penalize you too much, even in the hot heat of the summer.
Right.
We want to have a nice mid layer and a water barrier. So a wind barrier, like a windbreaker or rain jacket, would be something I would always walk around with.
So when folks get off the trail in the mountains, it can become pretty easily to be disoriented. What's the process for that, and what are kind of the reasons that folks easily get lost outside?
Everything looks different, especially on your hike up. A lot of times folks are just really goal oriented and they're focused on the trail or they're focused on the peak, and they just keep looking at those two things. I think stopping and turning and doing a 360 so that you can maintain orientation. I've been lost more times than I can count coming back down, and you're like, I do not remember this tree. This tree is so distinct. It's right in the middle of the trail. Am I on the right trail? So trying to really do that 360 and maintain the situational awareness up and down is huge. But once you become disoriented, it's can be false sense of security to continue going. And sometimes you need to just stop and reassess your situation and maybe backtrack. If you find other trail users, then you could talk to them and see if they're going in the same direction or if they can help you out as far as correcting the trail you're supposed to be on. When you start walking these ridge lines, there's trails everywhere. And there's old trails, there's game trails, there's trails that aren't marked on maps, and they're definitely not marked on the mountain. You get a little spoiled down in the high density population areas where there's a trail marker sign that says left, you're going to go to the lake, right, you're going to go to the waterfall. And we don't get that. When you start hitting the wilderness areas, it's very remote, and you should be familiar with your navigation at that point as to where you want to go, what your objectives are.
What are some warning signs, both physical and mental, that folks should be kind of on alert for when things are changing for them?
The umbles, I really enjoy the umbles because it is a clear sign of a mental strain. Fumbling if you can't hold your ski poles anymore. Bumbling if you're mumbling and you're not able to make clear statements.
Mm-hmm.
We always like to talk when you're exercising. You should still be able to talk. Otherwise, you're overexerting yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's very true with hiking. If you're not able to make clear, concise statements and talk with your peers, and if you're hiking by yourself, it's a little harder to see that coming, but stumbling on rocks and trees is a clear sign that you're fatigued or the cold is getting to you or dehydration. And I like the umbles because it's we all get them, and we all get tired, and we all get sore, and we all get thirsty and hungry. And that's always a very quick check for myself is if I'm starting to mumble or bumble or stumble, I need to stop and reassess.
For folks that love the outdoors and want to give back to their community, why is supporting search and rescue so important? What are some good ways that folks can give back and support search and rescue?
Yeah, we have the State Rescue Assistance Card, which is a great way to support our local county rescues. Also, in the state of Utah, our sheriffs are responsible for the search and rescue teams, and those teams are volunteer. So I have about 40 people on my team right now that are volunteers. They all work day jobs, they have families, and they support the community wholeheartedly with their volunteering time and their gear and their experience. I have hundreds of years of search and rescue experience on my team with folks that have been on the team or other teams for 20 plus years in their careers. So supporting them through any of the foundations that have been established is great. Cool. And managing yourself and educating others is always a great way to support the community because we're all out there to recreate and have fun and to recreate tomorrow as well as today. So whatever you can do, I think, to educate and pass that knowledge on goes a long way.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and giving us the rundown of search and rescue, specifically in Salt Lake County, but also kind of SAR for the broader Utah region. I think we talked about some really great points on the importance of preparedness and kind of like good red flag warnings to watch out for when we're out in the mountains. Is there any last piece of advice that you'd leave somebody as we're transitioning into winter on recreating?
My final piece is no matter what you're doing in this amazing state, is it will be here tomorrow. Take off small bites and don't put something at risk just because you weren't planning it, or maybe the daylight is starting to dwindle. Is just keep expectations and stay safe and have fun and come back. Come back tomorrow and do it again.
Thanks, Shane. I hope to never see you outside.
Well, you'll see me outside, but hopefully not professionally.
Hopefully not in a professional setting. Right. Thanks for coming today.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course.